everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Chase Batiche with Oracle Podcast here. I'm recording this April 13th. This is for the week of the 14th through 21st. Today's actually my sister's birthday. Shout out to my sister. I don't know where I'd be without her. She's helped me through many a trial in my life. Sisters. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the chart of the week, and there's some themes, there's some things. What we're still currently working through, which I'm so glad we're on the other side of now because I could feel it as the closer it got to it, was this Chiron conjunct the sun. And I did a deep dive into Chiron last week, just talking about the energetics of Chiron and it's the wounded healer. It's not that fun, honestly. It's not a super fun archetype. But it is an archetype of transformation because wherever our wounds lie, there is our work, right? So it's funny because we just had a full moon in Libra, and this full moon in Libra was exactly opposing the sun conjunct Chiron. It was exact degrees actually on the full moon. And that only happens once a year because Chiron moves so slowly. So it's interesting because I saw a lot of stuff. I don't watch that many astrologers, but the stuff I saw about this full moon was a lot of this is a cleansing full moon. This is a beneficial full moon. And, of course it is. I didn't see much about Chiron on it. People talking about Chiron. And to me, that's kind of like one of the keys to the castle. I think one of the things that's, coming up so Chiron in Aries, opposing the moon in Libra, the Libra rules relationships. Chiron rules like the wounds that we carry. Aries is the independence, assertive self. Libra is how we are in relation to others. It rules diplomacy, balance, fairness, justice. Aries can be conflict, assertiveness, boldness, courage. And so that's the independent and also relationship axis, the axis of the self in relation to others. So there could have been a lot of wounds coming up around relationships. It could have been wounds coming up around asserting yourself in relationships, asserting your needs, speaking your truth. But also, what it seems like to me is, I don't know about you guys, but I am just growing so quickly these days. I am shooting off into outer space. That's what it feels like my consciousness is. And sometimes when we do that, it's like things change around us so quickly and relationships change. And, the scaffolding of your life can kind of shift when you start to change rapidly. And that can reflect itself in many ways, but relationships is definitely one of those. And there's almost a melancholy that can come with that, with the great changing of the self. When you are consciously changing, everything else in your life changes. It's just how it works, and there can be, there's an adjustment period with that. And I kind of feel like that's what this Chiron was about for me. And also just getting really clear, Aries is about the self. And Chiron conjunct Aries can be a lot about having that wound of the self, that wound of, I talked about this last week, but the raw vital essence, the raw intense truth, the raw authenticity, and letting yourself really expose that to the world. More than ever on the other side of all of this, that's kind of what I've been feeling, because it's like in relationships, a lot of times we sacrifice ourselves or our authentic essence to make sure others are okay, or whatever. I don't know, but this is really a time on planet Earth where we are meant to be like in full throttle, raw intensity of our authenticity, because I keep talking about that as we've entered the age of Aquarius, there's two worlds that are being created simultaneously. And there's one of syntropy, and there's a new timeline, and there's an emerging energy, and there's a death and entropy. And those two things, and then chaos and upheaval. And it's the old systems breaking down and new ones emerging. The new ones are happening through us, not to us. So, Aries energy is birth. It is a time of allowing that powerful energy to come forth. And in its raw, vital form, real things can't be birthed lightly. Creativity doesn't just, gently come onto the scene. Birth doesn't just, make itself barely known. Birth almost kills the mother, Birth is the Big Bang. Birth changes worlds. And you can't be compromising your essence or your authenticity when you're trying to birth something. So that's kind of like a little bit of a in energy about this, the Chiron and full moon energy. Soul level initiation, embodied courage, self-trust, authentic leadership are also some themes of the Sun conjunct Chiron. But, and also, just this idea of healing by example. I've been really feeling that these days. I think that is an absolute truth. I think more than ever, so many of us are just looking to which way to go, where to, and the things we once knew that were our leaders are no longer our leaders. The things we once knew that were things that we went to for safety and trust and reliability are no longer reliable. So it's forcing us to look elsewhere. It's also forcing us to look within and connect to spirit, connect to source. So that's kind of the big theme I wanted to talk about today, actually, because we still have this massive energetic conjunction in the sign of Pisces, and it's not going to be going on like this for much longer because Mercury and Venus move quickly and they are no longer retrograde. So they both just retrograded. We're retrograding back through Pisces, and then now they're going to be moving forward into Aries, which is going to be initiating more energy into something new, birthing something new. But with the Venus and the Mercury, we have had 4 planets in the sign of Pisces, including Mercury, the North Node, Saturn, and Venus. And they've all been conjunct. And it's been such a beautiful time because with that energy, it's really, what it feels like to me, and what I wrote down is the veil is thin. And I wanted to kind of go into what that means, what the veil is thin actually means. It means like to me, the boundary between worlds becomes permeable. And many of us, if you're not a spiritual person or you haven't oriented yourself, which most people, at least in America, unless you're of a religious order, don't really think in these terms. But there are many dimensions, there are many worlds, and a boundary between worlds means the material to the spiritual. So when the veil is thin, it's a time of really being able to receive information from other realms. So receive downloads, visions, intuitive insights, which to me has been so clear lately. Oh my God. It's like, and it's that merging, that's what moving from 3D to 5D means. It means that the orientation towards 3D is the 3D world, the material world, this chair, this microphone, this table, this money in my bank account, this car, this thing I have to do every day, this food, to the spiritual, the energy behind, the energy that created, the vision, the intuition, the faith, the energy behind every single material thing. I think it was Neville Goddard that said, by the time something is material, it is dead. By the time you see it in the material form, I mean, of course, trees aren't dead. The world's not dead. But that's kind of like the last phase of creation is the material. There's this whole other like realm of creativity that has to do with really working with vision, with your third eye, with energy, working with your dreams, starting to focus on what you are creating with your focus, taking responsibility for the power of your vision, because this world is basically a collective visioning process of the human and animal collective body. I mean, we're all creating this together. And it comes from our visioning faculty. It comes from our belief systems. Our belief systems dictate our behaviors, and it dictates also what we see in the world. So you'll notice that once you start shifting your perspective on one thing, or you have a different belief system in one thing, you'll start noticing that thing out in the world. Or you'll be like, oh my God, this happened or this happened. And simply by starting to shift your focus or choosing to begin to place your energy in a different direction, new things will emerge. And that's what creating your own reality means. It means that when you start paying attention and focusing your consciousness on certain aspects of energy, which ultimately creates materiality, because we're materially oriented, so we see things in a material way. But when we're seeing them in a material way, we're seeing them in our mind's eye, meaning inside of our mind. That is energy work. When you're seeing things in your mind's eye, that's vision. When you're having dreams that seem real, that's vision, that's mind's eye. Or sometimes you astral travel, it's true. But for the most part, that's what energy work is. And then so our belief systems behind the vision are kind of what dictate material reality. So here on planet Earth, we have a collective vision because we have a strongly embedded belief system around certain things. And, especially, the old paradigm has a lot to do with conflict, power, greed, money, control, power over. And what's interesting is that really, truly, the times we're in right now, that all of that is shifting. We are moving out of that paradigm. We're moving from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. In the age of Pisces, there was a massive amount of martyrdom. There was a massive amount of sacrifice. I mean, that's kind of, the age of Pisces is like, kind of like the energy of a narcissist empath dynamic is kind of the age of Pisces, where one thing is kind of, two things are codependently, toxic codependent and feed off of each other's life force. One is taking over the other. As we're moving into the age of Aquarius, there is a liberated energy. We're moving out of these old school power dynamics. We're redefining what power is. And this is real because, it's like in the old paradigm, we used to define power as having power over, and authentic power is when nothing has power over you. Because everything in our world comes from fear, right? The two baseline energetics come from love or fear, right? So love is the natural energetics of this universe. Love is how everything it permeates the ethers. The inversion, the sublimination, the perversion, the distortion of love is fear. And that's when we start to get duality. That's when things start to go inverted. But they're really the same thing, right? So for some reason, the collective dream body on this planet has been one of fear. And it's been for a while. It's been a while. It's been a while that the collective imagining faculty has had a lot to do with fear, power over, fear of the unknown, fear of magic, fear of the unseen, which creates the need for religions and hierarchies and control mechanisms to keep people in their place and take away their own connection to source so that they are dependent on others. That's what hierarchies are. That's what control is. And for whatever reason, humans have wanted to have control over other humans. For some reason, it makes them think that they're safe. And what's crazy is that as we move into the age of Aquarius, before it was the shape of a triangle, and now it's becoming the shape of a circle. And before it was like one thing was at the top and everybody was vying for that position. This is why it's the end of celebrity culture is upon us. American royalty was very much celebrities. Hollywood is kind of really reinventing itself, dying, being reborn. It's happening everywhere. And it means that these hierarchies are getting toppled, which means that there is a circular structure that's emerging where everybody gets a piece of the pie. Everybody gets to contribute. Everybody's a part of it. It's fun. And ultimately, we're not grinding. I mean, that's, the hierarchies are connected to slave energy, right? Where one person has the ultimate power and other people are working underneath. I mean, we've all been there in some capacity. That's how America especially has run itself and the world. Let's be real. This is a worldwide phenomena. This is a human phenomena, really. You know what I mean? And it's so interesting because what I've noticed kind of as this new era is emerging is we're redefining the idea of power, which means that instead of needing to have power over others to feel powerful, which really ultimately is fear, because what you're doing is you're needing to control that person so that you feel safe. It's actually that you're shifting your own level of consciousness so that nothing makes you afraid enough to need to have power over others. So nothing has power over you, which ultimately leads to sovereignty, the ultimate sovereignty of the self. And when one is truly sovereign, there's no need for hierarchies. When one is truly sovereign, one starts to understand the energetics of creation and how energy creates matter. And therefore, we're not as dependent on these external structures to keep us safe. It's all connected. It's like we needed those structures at that time because humanity's consciousness wasn't ready to evolve, adapt, shift. But we've kind of hit a tipping point now. And I think it has a lot to do with the internet, honestly, the connection of humanity. Because we were all connected on some subconscious level, archetypally and universally. But the internet has given us the visual to see that we're all really are connected as one. And we're all going through very similar things. And it's that kind of realization that we're a community. We're one giant world community, and these governments are not acting out of they're not there to take care of us. And who do we need? What do we need a government? What do we need somebody governing us for? We govern ourselves. Yeah, this might sound radical. People are going to be like, well, you need governments, you need school systems, you need all these things. And it's like, yeah, you do. But the way we've been doing it hasn't seemed to be working very well, has it? The way we've been doing it is kind of killing the planet and everyone on it, especially in America. So this kind of reshuffling. It seems very chaotic right now, but it's all connected. It's like the consciousness of humanity, and this veil thinning energy of Pisces is really giving us access to start to really permeate and play around in the ethers and realize that we have complete and true sovereignty over our lives. And the more we get in tune with the spirit realm behind matter, the more we can begin to get access. You are the puppet master of your own play. You are the writer, director, actor, producer of your play. And this play is your life. This life is your play. And it sucks to own that when your life kind of sucks, or you're going through a really shitty time, or you're really depressed. Because you're like, why? I would never create this. And, all I can say is I've been there majorly. I've gone through major periods of my life where I wanted to kill myself. And I never did, though, because I knew I couldn't, because I knew I needed to go through it. But it's like that human, very human earth energy of having to really intensely learn a lesson, really intensely go through something, go through that dark night to come out. It's like the darkness takes us to our edges of the things that we have disowned in ourselves, the things that need to be reclaimed, bringing light to the shadows and ultimately integrating them. And once you do that, there's nothing to hide anymore. And you're able to be seen and whole. But the shadows and the darkness has to do with these deep pieces of ourselves that have gone underground. And we're the only ones that can reclaim them. No one else can do it for us. No therapist, no nobody. So with these planets in Pisces and moving into this new era of Aquarius, and with this, these days I'm really taking advantage of this energy. Not taking advantage, that's not the right word. I'm sinking into, I hate that word, taking advantage. Not going to do that. I'm really sinking into these energetics of Pisces. I'm like, okay, give it to me. Let's go. Some other energies that can come up with this is receiving downloads, visions, intuitive insights, ancestral presence, synchronicities, and a porous kind of nature, a porous energy that kind of permeates. It's like, for me, it's been wild. Like, it's so funny. I used to see synchronicities as such a surprise. I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Those two things are happening simultaneously. And now I don't see it as a surprise. I see it as part of this unfolding. And I look for the patterns, and I see, okay, this is the energy that I'm currently working with. This is the energy that's currently showing itself to me, and it's leading me towards this. And then you kind of start to realize that if you start to realize you're the director of the play, what you focus on and what you grow, and the confidence of that can kind of shift the dynamics, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense here, and I'm not being trying not to be too up in the sky. I'm trying to be, somewhat grounded. And it's interesting because I've had to really stay very grounded. That's something I consciously do on the regular, is stay grounded. And that means like taking walks in nature, meditating a lot, taking baths, breathing. Because when you start to work kind of with this spiritual energy, because this many planets in Pisces is really kind of like a portal. It's when I say the veil is thin, I mean that there's energy that is able to access us in a very powerful and palpable way from other realms. And you can't deny other realms of consciousness. Anybody that's ever had anybody die, I'm sure, has gotten some communication. I mean, anybody that's ever had a strange dream, or, these are the things that are becoming more highlighted. Almost, I feel like I'm being guided by these things now. I'm just kind of, it's a co-creation. It's this working with spirit to receive guidance, and then using that guidance to formulate visions and implementing willpower. It's this very powerful move of using willpower and vision to imagine new realities for yourself and begin to place yourself in those realities, while simultaneously letting go of how it is going to come about. It's so funny. I had a dream last night. I had the most amazing dream. I had a sex dream about Pedro Pascal. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's just this amazing, hot actor. And it's funny because in the dream, I remember specifically thinking, oh man, the universe sometimes will give you even better than what you thought you wanted. Because I thought I wanted one thing, and then I opened myself up and I got something else. And it was like this embodiment. He had this really powerful embodiment of the masculine and feminine. And something was modeled to me. Something new was modeled to me that I hadn't felt before in a dream. And it was a new experience. And it was a new realization. And in the dream, I was like, wow, what I thought I wanted, sometimes you can't, and I know you guys have heard this, and I've heard it too. It's like, yeah, the universe will give you things, but really opening yourself up to the mystery and giving an opening space up for magic to unfold is kind of what life's about. That is ultimate creativity, and that's working with spirit. And it requires that we begin to let go of what we think we want. It's like we can have ideas of where we want to go or something we think we really, really want. But the power comes from like having that focus or having that intention and then releasing it and allowing whatever wants to come through to come through. That process can look like, surrendering, offering. There's a trick that Florence Scovel-Shinn talks about. She talks about offering, and then Tosha Silver, one of my teachers, talks about it. She wrote a great book called Outrageous Openness. Tosha Silver, she's great. But this idea that if you want something really badly, it's this whole idea that grasping hands can't receive, right? Grasping hands can't receive. So if you really, really, really want something, you give it over to spirit. You give it back to the universe, and you say, I'm offering this to you, my most beloved desire. And I trust that whatever comes to me will be this thing or even better. But that process of really offering it, sometimes it can be excruciating, because what you're doing is this. Sometimes we have an idea that we want this very, very, very specific thing. And we were like, this is exactly how I want it. And this is exactly how I want it to be. And that's our ego playing out. Sometimes we get it. Sometimes we get that exact thing. I've done that before. And people love to talk about that. Master manifestational energy, right? But sometimes also it's just, we're meant to give it up so that we can create room for what actually is meant to come. And that's the truth, Ruth. That's it. And so, and it has a lot to do also with outcomes around, desired outcomes that we don't know exactly what we would do if we didn't have that exact desired outcome. Giving it over to spirit. And then, so this is when developing a spiritual practice, which means connecting to source and starting to have a kind of living, breathing connection with this energy, so that you can start to feel it working with you. That's what co-creation is. So letting go there's no greater power, honestly. There's no greater power than the art of letting go. Letting go. It's actually my thing that I've learned in this life. It's the thing I think I've learned the most about, and it's the thing I've learned the most about in terms of it's actually the most powerful force in the universe, because it's actually when magic can happen, and it's when nothing has power over you. It's when nothing has power over you. So these control mechanisms of the old way and the old world, they're so linked to materialism, and they're linked to hierarchies, they're linked to slave culture, they're linked to the grind, they're linked to the matrix, because we need things to operate in this way to make it all function and make it all predictable. But the real power of this universe, the magic of this universe, is when you start to let go of how you think it should be, and you start to allow the mystery into your life, and you start to watch how it shows up for you. And the more and more and more it shows up for you, the more and more in tune with spirit you become. And then nothing has power over you anymore, because you're not living your life out of fear, to needing to have control, to knowing how things are going to work. You trust in an invisible spiritual force, and you start to work with that force. You start to dance with that force. You start to improvise. You start to be creative. You start to play. That's what true creative power is. That's what the art of letting go is. That's when you start to have true spiritual sovereignty. And that's when you start to really disconnect from power structures and not needing anybody to tell you what to do. You and Source are in a dance. That was quite a diatribe, but, that's what I have to say about that. Yeah, so the other things we have going on also are we have Neptune that's in Aries, which is really giving us this power to lead from spirit and opening up ourselves to the archetype of the mystic warrior, which I feel very deeply as well. We're going to get a lot of Aries activations coming up now, because all of the planets are starting to move into Aries. So Mercury and Venus will be coming up into Aries pretty darn soon. We got Neptune in there. Saturn will be soon coming up behind it. So there's going to be a lot of initiations of energy. And we can look on the world stage and we can say, oh man, this could look like war. This could look like conflict. This could look like that. It also looks like, oh yeah, how does it look for me? Screw them. How does it look for me? Don't let external power structures make you feel afraid. Don't let them dim your light. Remember, all these changes are working through us, not to us. We are the change. We want a new world, we must act on a new world. So what is being initiated inside of you? What is being birthed? How are you standing up for yourself? I am. Motherfucker. I am. I exist. By virtue of being alive, I am. I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am creative. I am disciplined. I am here. So, yeah. I think that's the main things I wanted to say today. I love you guys. I guess this was a real talk about power. Power is important, though, because a lot of us feel powerless. A lot of people feel powerless these days. They feel like they're just at the whims of these silly, silly, silly governments with all these silly men and their silly guns. These men don't own us, and they never will. They can try to. And these men in suits and their silly power plays. Yeah, they affect people, but the more every single human, no matter what your circumstance, starts to tune into these realities, they have no chance. External circumstances will shift. The more we believe in their play and we allow them to have power over us, the more power they will have. So if we want the world to change, we change it ourselves. We change it internally and we work with the energy. All right. Those are my thoughts for the day. I love you all. Have a wonderful week and I'll talk to you soon.